Hello, my name is Wayne O'Connor. This is Chapter 10, The Friendship Tower Chronicles, the public copy. This is the third draft book edition. On January 2nd, 2017, I decided to update the Friendship Tower postings. Chapter 1, Flowers from Jesus. The first part of that material, the parable of the flowers from Jesus, is also connected to the Friendship Tower Chronicles. At the end of this paper, I will post the links to my other Friendship Tower posts and videos from the oldest to the most recent. For those of you who know about the Friendship Tower, it has been the adventure of a lifetime, full of short periods of happiness, long periods of loneliness, and protracted moments of emotional pain. It started when the Lord gave me visions and dreams when I was very young. I remembered the vivid dreams for years before I came to understand them. They repeated, several at a time, randomly, a few times per year, until I was 21. After that, the dreams only occurred singly and sporadically for another decade or two. The dreams were a combination of end times visions and personal matters. Jesus said in one of those serial dreams that repeated several times through the years, "You cannot ask a father for his daughter's hand, or ask a woman to marry you. I will arrange the marriage." Jesus also said in that same serial dream that he would not let me date or not let me date very much. It must have been not very much. I have been on 2 unchaperoned dates. Both were with Friendship Tower girls later in life. I tried to date. I even lost 100 pounds over the summer during college so that I could earn a date that had been arranged by some guys in a social work class with a girl named Di. I kept my end of the bargain. When I went to talk with the girl outside of the UAC Fine Arts Building on the first day of classes, until I called her by name, she hadn't recognized me. I had been told I have a very distinctive voice. Di's crooked smile turned to shock as she dashed away, book bag bouncing on one shoulder and one hand covering her mouth. Her friends found me later and said, "If you are a gentleman, Wayne, you will release her from her promise." If you are following along in the text, here is a picture that was taken of me not long after that incident, a matter of possibly only a couple of days. And in this picture, I'm at a party. I am drinking a beer from a bottle. Don't know what the brand was. A guy named Andy from the same floor is photobombing behind me. That's his smile. This picture was taken at a party on the second floor of Horan Hall, where I resided during my college years. I will detail 4 incidents below where the Lord personally intervened to keep me from participating in what is, at least for me, inappropriate dating behavior. Andy behind me was one of the hosts for the first 3 of those parties. Party number 1. I was invited to a spin the bottle party just down the hall in the dormitory where I resided at Horan Hall. It was set up in a room near the second floor lounge where the photo was taken. As soon as I entered the room, every girl sprinted out of the room and would not return until the guys from my wing promised them that I would not participate in the spin the bottle party. Party number 2. It was my turn to get scared then. Right after that picture was snapped, a cute but very inebriated blonde girl came up to me and asked me to take her to my room. I became tongue-tied and hadn't responded to her. Before I could accept her invitation, it seemed as if she thought that I had dissed her. Instantly, I had been overwhelmed with shame. Whenever I would see her after that around the campus, we both seemed to have the same shamed and embarrassed reaction all over again. Neither one of us had done anything. We had entertained the thought. What she had in mind, I can't say, but she had asked me to take her alone to my room down the hall. Party number 3. Just before Christmas, my floor had a mistletoe party to the surprise of Andy and the other guys who hosted most of the wing parties. The same thing happened as with the spin the bottle party. The guys had to promise a totally different group of ladies that I would not participate before they would re-enter the mistletoe decorated dorm room that was next to the party lounge. To add insult to injury, 2 of the ugliest looking guys in the whole dorm could play the mistletoe game. At first, the guys had thought that the girls were refusing to play because of the 2 not so aesthetically pleasing little men. But the girls had pointed at me and said that they had no problem kissing the 2 ugly guys, but wouldn't participate in the mistletoe game if I was present. To their credit, Coke and Andy, the hosts, tried to explain on my behalf that I was a really nice guy. But this group of girls was just as adamant as the first group. Strangely, many of these girls and others who were friends of the second floor guys got to know me and liked me, but still refused to date me. When I was a junior in college, I was alone in my dorm room, crying out to Jesus about the issue. My weeping came to a standstill as the room filled with fog, and a booming voice intoned, "You are reserved. Go to Genesis chapter 24. And if you're following along in the text, this is the room, see the photo above, where it happened and what I looked like at the time. In that picture, I am wearing a sky blue windbreaker, and I'm holding a large white bowl that has popcorn in it. Party number 4. I will use the names Andrea and Kathy, that's Kathy with a C, to represent 2 ladies important to this event. Although I distinctly remember their family surname for certain, I will not use that name in writing about this incident. There was one other incident that occurred just before I graduated. Friends of the second floor guys were having a dorm pizza party with a group of ladies from Towers and Murray. By that time, I had been chairman of internal affairs for 3 years, so it was one of my official dorm activities rather than one hosted by the guys who usually planned private parties for the residents of the second floor Horn Hall. The usual 2 guys who often planned the parties for the second floor were merely guests for this party, which took place a few years after parties 1, 2, and 3. That is, I was the co-host with a resident assistant from Towers, but several guys from the second floor of Horn Hall participated. I think it was a wine and pizza party, but very light on the drinking. Anyway, I heard one of the co-hosts talking. I think she may have been a lady resident assistant named Andrea. If Andrea wasn't the resident assistant, she was the friend or roommate of the resident assistant. Either way, Andrea had helped host the party. Whether her name was Andrea or not, we will call her by that name. Since she had helped me set up the party, I was sitting near her when she mentioned her older sister, Kathy. Whether her name was Kathy or not, we will call her by that name. Their quotes may not be exactly accurate, but they are, to the best of my recollection, close paraphrases. Andrea said, "My just barely a virgin sister Kathy is a holier-than-thou Bible-banging Christian girl." Andrea paused for breath, then continued animatedly, "She recently broke up with her fiancé. Kathy started dating the creep when she was quite young and has never dated anyone else. My sister is definitely wrong about that flippin' God stuff, but she is sincere. Blank, that's Kathy's former boyfriend," and she continued, "like most Christians, is nothing but a friggin' fake." I had seen the guy around. In my estimation, a very dogmatic, worldly, and controlling guy with a hair-trigger temper who was not fit to be leading Bible studies. After mocking her sister's Christianity, Andrea applauded the fact that Kathy was finally leaving her fake Christian boyfriend who had been cheating on her and living a wretched behind-the-scenes lifestyle while being active in the local Campus Crusade for Christ ministry. Finally, Andrea had predicted what she thought her broken-hearted sister Kathy would do, especially since she was transferring to the University of Bemidji at Minnesota following her finals. Andrea said her sister Kathy would cry all week, but right after finals, she would go down to Water Street and look for any guy she could find, then take him to bed. I believe her finals would have been over on a Thursday evening. Not 100% sure about that, but if I remember correctly, it was a Thursday evening. I thought about that conversation all week. My thought had not been to seek a one-night stand, but to win a relationship that would last for the rest of my life. My hope was that Jesus would use the situation to bring forth his promise to procure a wife for me. Anyway, I remembered what day Kathy was scheduled to take her last exam. That night, I went looking for her. I found Kathy in Stables Saloon, a historic landmark which has been renamed and remodeled many times over the decades. Stables was famous while I was attending the University of Wisconsin at Eau Claire, one of the notorious Water Street watering holes of collegiate libationary overindulgence. Kathy had sat there alone at a booth for 2 hours, waiting for a guy, any guy, to talk with her. Kathy recognized me as a friend of her sister Andrea's boyfriend. She smiled a dazzling smile when I approached her and exclaimed, "I know you. You're Wayne, a friend of my sister's boyfriend. I have heard that you are a really nice guy." Kathy was a very smart, athletic, and attractive girl. She was probably the prettiest girl in Stables Saloon that night. Yet the men prowling around the large elongated room like predatory wolves literally acted as if they couldn't see her. Stables was packed that evening, yet the booths to either side of Kathy and the lofted upstairs booth above her along the back wall of the establishment were empty. The area immediately around her seemed to pulse effulgently with a strange radiance that contrasted starkly with the smoke-filled shadows that gloomily darkened the rest of the rustically designed ambience of that historical bar. Kathy offered, after very little dialogue, to take me home to spend the night with her. I was just about to accept her offer. Suddenly the Lord appeared in front of me like a glowing three-dimensional stained glass window and asked, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I am not making this up. While once again I was overwhelmed with shame, I did not lose my ability to speak and was filled with a sense of duty to do what was right and honorable. Instead of accepting Kathy's offer, I thanked her but gently declined. Then I asked her if I could take her to find her sister Andrea instead. Earlier I had seen her sister walking on Water Street trying to find her. Andrea had even asked me if I had seen Kathy when she and her friends walked by me. Kathy asked after I had declined her offer, "You really are a gentleman, aren't you?" The place was so crowded, except for the booths that lined the back wall near Kathy, that one had to force themselves through the throngs of college guys and gals. We were right by the back door. Meanwhile, I watched Kathy's sister enter the front door of the bar. The thought had crossed my mind that I could have exited the back door with Kathy, but there was no way I was going to do that after what had just happened. I told Kathy that her sister and her friends had just entered Stables. Kathy replied, "We don't have to do anything, Wayne, but we could just leave quietly out the back door. I'm a little embarrassed about talking with my sister right now. You could still walk me home." I thanked her again, but suggested that her sister and friends must be really worried about her. I then walked Kathy to meet her sister and friends. They offered to let me walk around with them for the rest of the evening. I thanked them, but declined, only walking with them for a few minutes before bidding them good night and heading back to my dorm room. I cried most of the way back home. I graduated that summer and never saw any of them again. When I had my three-dimensional vision in 1989, which was 4 years later, the Lord referred to the Genesis 24 promise, but said the book of Ruth would be the key. He also said not to try to figure out the riddle, but assured me that when it was time, I would understand. Jesus also gave me several Friendship Tower rules. I came away from the vision with several title pages, but the rest of the details only filled in the future when I needed the information. Stephen Quayle calls the phenomenon burst transmissions. That is to say, I received the headlines during the vision, but until I needed certain information, like the Friendship Tower rules, I did not have details with clarity. One morning I woke up knowing that I needed the rules just before I was invited into a betrothal, and I wrote them down. One of the rules was, if the family rules were stricter, I followed those rules until and unless the Lord orchestrated a change on my behalf. Another rule was that for a courtship, the guidelines were a bit more fluid. I have the rules locked away in a safe place with old journals and pictures that relate to the Friendship Tower subject, but I am not going to go into detail about them in this paper. Suffice it to say, the whole enterprise was not so much to get a mate for me as a tool to modify my behavior and gradually develop my maturity. Also, it was supposed to be a prophetic word picture of what is happening in the American church. First, I was supposed to understand and feel how badly Jesus wants to be reunited with his bride, to feel the ache, but not to be able to join her until the Father says, "It is time." Second, I was to understand and feel the concept that many new Christians, especially in America, are often betrothed to Jesus, but are being given to a pastor or denomination rather than being taught to have a relationship with their Lord and King. In general, many contemporary Christians live their daily lives very independently of Jesus. They may rarely miss a meeting, shout, "Praise you, Jesus!" or weep while exclaiming, "I love you, Jesus!" and buy Christian music galore. Yet they are not afraid to tell Jesus to stop meddling in their lives. Very pointedly, the Lord had said during the vision in 1989, "You already have a measure of obedience, unconditional love, and discipline. I will use the Friendship Tower to bring you greater levels of obedience, unconditional love, and discipline." While in general, I have seen many miracles associated with the process, I have come to find that on the finer points of the procedure, I only truly understood what was happening by hindsight. Jesus told me beforehand what was going to happen and why he was doing it, but all along I kept expecting a mate who never materialized. I also learned that the Friendship Tower girls were never meant to marry me, but just be friends. Only one Friendship Tower girl was to one day be united with me, and yet the Lord himself, through his sovereignty and for his own reasons, set it all up to bring me through death of a vision. Chapter 1 of this book, Flowers from Jesus, explains the concept of death of a vision. Additionally, when I have explained the generality of rules that I am under, most of my Christian friends have told me over and over through the years that God doesn't work this way. My most recent prayer and accountability partner for the Friendship Tower Girl Project, Ken Welker, has said that if I ever write this story into its own book, I should entitle it something like, "Everyone said God would never do that." I have no plans to make this chapter into a book. People telling me that God would never do that has been the case concerning the Friendship Tower numerous times over the years. My friend Mark was pretty much in agreement with them initially. However, after having explained the process to Mark a few times over my decade or so of knowing him, he has come to accept that for me, this is the Lord's plan. For the most part now, he doesn't want to fight the Lord concerning the issue, but he doesn't necessarily think the chosen ones are good picks for me either. He has watched over and over as a small number of girls become confirmed as Friendship Tower girls, with me doing very little. Mark has also seen each Friendship Tower girl or her family use the Book of Ruth key option to give up their right of redemption. He has also seen me get spanked for infractions or watched the Lord keep me from having relationships with girls who were not confirmed as Friendship Tower girls. One of the things that would happen if a non-Friendship Tower girl liked me when I was in the workforce was that one of us would quickly get terminated, or she would have an emergency arise where she would be forced to move far out of the area permanently. I had been told in the 1989 vision that when I was invited into the betrothal, it would be a surprise. That said, if there were other courtships, there would be confirmations, as the Lord would sanction each Friendship Tower girl. First, he shows them to me in a dream. Then I am supposed to do nothing. Within a week, either the lady or a member of her family will mail me a photo or send me one digitally over the internet. Next, the Lord brings a prayer partner to keep me accountable and pray with me concerning the issue. Then I must wait for the Lord to orchestrate events so that I get to spend time with the girl and her family. Usually, they end up being chaperoned visits. This has happened several times over the years. I did have a word once from Pastor Truman Strickland of Bruce, Wisconsin, many years ago, that the last two Friendship Tower girls would be friends. Until numbers 9 and 10, that was never the case. It was only recently that I made that connection. Truman didn't use that terminology, but the way he described it fit the way the Lord would usually provide two Friendship Tower girls. Truman had also said that I would have a hard time choosing, but that I would end up choosing the one who will help me in the ministry. However, I must say, from my perspective, it feels like I have never really had a choice. Also, I don't know if she remembers, but I told the mother of Friendship Tower girl number 10 about the Friendship Tower character trait list. I told her that even though her daughter very much fit the characteristics of the Friendship Tower girls, which the Lord gave to me in the 1989 vision, that I really couldn't see the number 10 daughter helping me in the ministry. Friendship Tower girl characteristics list, and this was taken from the 1989 vision. While each Friendship Tower girl seemed to have most of the traits on the list, with some, certain qualities showed up in different ways, or were weaker or stronger. For example, one of the traits was that they would have a creative, dramatic flair, which could differ with each girl in both type and level of skill. While one might be a fantastic watercolor artist, another might enjoy dabbling with creative writing and classical poetry. The following list will not be complete. However, I will maintain a private copy that will contain the entire unabridged list. Ellipsis points. She will be very intelligent. She will excel at just about whatever she decides to accomplish. She will be eccentric. She will be strong-willed and independent. Even though she will love me, and the me is capitalized whenever I use me in this list, and it's talking about Jesus, not me, the author, Wayne O'Connor. Going back to the beginning of the trait, even though she will love me and desire to serve me, she will have a strong, soulish side to her nature. There is a dark side to her personality. She will have an above-average capacity to withstand physical and emotional pain. This is a little bit hazy, but it also seems that Jesus said that even though this was true, she would have difficult pregnancies. It seems like he said that we were supposed to have nannies. She will have the gift of encouragement, but she will also be very skillful at cutting down or hurting people. When you meet, she will think she has an above-average ability to know my will, but she will only be average. After you marry, over time, she will become above average. She will have the gift of helps, but she will withhold it if she feels pushed or upset. She will have a very sensitive "don't push me" button. Never force her to do things. If you correct her, be firm but gentle. When she cries, she needs held. If you take advantage of her while you are comforting her, she will withhold herself from you when you need to comfort her in the future, and it will be your fault. Ellipsis points. She will need more private time than most women. Ellipsis points. While generally good-natured, she will have times of irritability and moodiness, and she will tend to take it out on you more than others. Ellipsis points. She has a deep need to receive praise and encouragement. Ellipsis points. Back to the ministry helps issue. I think what confused me is that while number 10 seems to want to go to church or Bible study, it seems to be more of a religious activity than a personal lifestyle choice to follow Jesus as part of a genuine relationship. Number 9 is said, in my presence, that she loves the Lord but has a hard time not giving into her flesh. She wasn't telling me that, but I heard her tell it to another person while I was standing nearby. I was told during a family meeting that even though number 9 seemed not to be interested in being a Christian, that she was really the Christian of the two. Further, I was told that number 10 had said, quote, many times, "I don't like Christians." That is part of what I have wrestled with concerning the choice. The Lord had said in the 1989 three-dimensional vision that in your eyes and in your heart no one will ever compare. A similar phrase was also in the parable of the magnificent statue vision as well, which occurred before the 1989 vision. I find both 9 and 10 very attractive, but whoever is first princess, that dictates how I view them. When Friendship Tower girl number 10 was first princess, my eye saw her as the most attractive until she became second princess again. So I guess that I will feel the same way now as I will when this book is published. Just as all the Friendship Tower girls are beautiful, precious, and special, even if they were or were not considered attractive, the one who is now first princess, Friendship Tower girl number 9, will probably always be first princess in my heart. In other words, in my heart, number 10 will always be a friend in my sentiment, like all the other Friendship Tower girls. But my best guess is that from now on, there will not be any strings attached to our friendship. I am quite content with that. Yet, only one, Princess number 10, will be wonderful as well as beautiful, precious, and special. That is because the only time I was standing beside her at a traditional church service, just after her mom had exited the position between us on the pew to use the bathroom, The minister stopped in the middle of his sermon. The minister then told everyone to turn to the person to their left, hold their hand, and tell them, "You are wonderful." Good old number 10 will always be an honorary Friendship Tower girl, even if I rarely have the privilege of interacting with her and never tell her again that she is wonderful, precious, beautiful, and special. I think Jesus may have preferred to provide 2 Friendship Tower girls for a reason. Maybe this is Jesus' way to keep me from focusing on one and to be sure that one of the 2 always has the right to reject the Book of Ruth key, first right of redemption. I should probably share more on the Book of Ruth key. First, there was a reversal in that in the Book of Ruth, a man had the right to redeem. In my case, the lady would have the right not to be redeemed into marriage. Second, the key may be broader in scope. I have noticed that overall, with one exception, the mothers of Friendship Tower girls most of the time seem to encourage their family on my behalf. Also, most of the Friendship Tower girls seem to want a father figure, which may be connected to Ruth chapter 3, verse 10. And he said, "Blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast showed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning, inasmuch as thou followest not young men, whether poor or rich." The first time there was just one Friendship Tower girl when I had my practice run, and next when I was invited into a betrothal. The first time ended rather quickly. I am not sure of the details, but somehow the father and the elders of a fellowship discovered that people in the group had dreams or visions, that the Lord was asking them to contact me or the family to discuss a courtship with a lady in the group. I was called before the father and elders to see if I knew anything about it. The long and the short of it was that the father and elders decided that I hadn't yet done anything improper. However, when I explained how I am not supposed to date and that Jesus promised to personally arrange a courtship for me, they went ballistic. The elders declared that God never arranges marriages like that, so it was all a trick of the devil. Ultimately, they decided that if I didn't talk with the girl or try to have a relationship with her, I could visit their fellowship. I agreed. I attended that fellowship for at least a few months, but it ended up disbanding. I don't know if the Lord always talks to a Friendship Tower girl or her family in a dream or vision, but it has happened. Once I visited a church, and a certain mother, father, and girl each had a dream the same night where the Lord asked them if they would invite me into a courtship. I talk about this and other similar riveting incidents in my 30-minute YouTube testimonial, Friendship Tower from Jesus. If you are interested in that or any of the other Friendship Tower Chronicles materials, the links are provided at the conclusion of this paper. Anyway, when I visited the church again, the pastor met me at the door and briefly, awkwardly, and apologetically explained the situation to me, but very sparsely. After that, he politely asked me not to visit the church again because the episode had been too fearful for the family. I don't think I had even interacted with any of the family that evening. I had only visited the church to hear the special speaker. I didn't know anyone there, although there was a lady who knew people in that church, or maybe she attended from time to time or something. I can't remember that exactly. Maybe I talk about it in a little more detail in one of the other Friendship Tower papers or audios. I ran into her in a Walmart store not long after that. Feeling sorry for me, she had flagged me down and filled in the blanks on that limited information that the pastor had shared as to the reason for giving me the left foot of fellowship. Perhaps a year or two later, another incident occurred. See the baby echolale of Christendom, chapter 3, the great betrothal mystery, and 4, the parable of the hellish betrothal. The girl who I was betrothed to had a dream where the Lord asked her if she would be willing to enter a courtship with me. I think she was only 15 or 16 when that dream occurred. Probably a year after that, the family discussed the issue with me, and we had a betrothal meeting in a nearby park. When the family did invite us into a betrothal, the rules were that we could not look at each other or talk to each other, and that we were betrothed, but that we would never actually be allowed to marry. 2 years later, the girl was given the choice of surrendering her savings, her car, and all her possessions except the clothes she was wearing, and any future interaction with her family if she wanted to marry me. Anyway, that is what the father told me the day before she was given that choice. I had not been part of their fellowship for several months, although some members of that fellowship visited me because I lived not too far away. Shortly after her day of prayer, she was taken to another state, and her parents arranged for another betrothal. They were a family that practiced an extreme form of ownership over all female children, even after they became adults, unless they were allowed to marry. Usually when I am invited to discuss the Friendship Tower with a family, they are surprised when I tell them that the Lord has never allowed me to date and promised to arrange a marriage for me. Either the girl declines, or if she is interested in entering a courtship, a significant family member discourages it. There is a prayer for confirmation with the family. If the person who is not happy with the arrangement gives in, either the girl will change her mind by that time, or one of the parents will change their mind. In one case, several years after a confirmed Friendship Tower girl declined, unexpected, she sent me an email asking if I was still interested in entering the courtship with her. Good old number 7 and her family flew into the city where I was living. The father called me and asked me to meet him 15 minutes before the meeting. He asked if I was still earning $28,000 per year, as when he and his wife had originally invited me into a courtship with their daughter. When I replied that I was not, he decided that there was no use having a family meeting about the issue. Number 7 had been very hurt by that incident, and while we were certainly not enemies, for a long time we never communicated. We do communicate very occasionally these days, and we, good old number 7 and her family, are still great friends, even after what happened. There were other times where I prayed with members of certain families concerning the issue, and after they received confirmations, they quickly found another family whose son was looking for a wife, or the girl would find a boyfriend or a husband. With Friendship Tower girls, numbers 9 and 10, it was a bit different. First, while I was living in the chalet in Winter, Wisconsin, during my last month there, before I moved to my first rental house near Hawkins, Wisconsin, in August 2014, the Lord talked to me in a dream. In the dream, the Lord said, "The Friendship Tower is now empty. One you already know has exited the tower. You will receive a confirmation next week that the other one has left the tower. About 1 year from now, I will put 2 new Friendship Tower girls into the tower." I expected a Dear John letter. What happened? A week later, I was reading my Facebook news and someone posted pictures of number 8 with her new husband. Thankfully, number 8 is still a good friend. Her hubby is a nice guy, too. Several months after the Lord had warned me in a dream that 2 new Friendship Tower girls were going to be placed in the tower, I had been invited to 2 new fellowships. The first one was very local, hosted by my friend Ken and his family, but the other was about an hour away. I started going to the nearby fellowship, but for a couple of reasons was not able to get to the one farther away. until about May 2015. Anyway, to make a long story short, in the local fellowship, I was told about two girls who were looking for dates and who wanted to find husbands. I told the leaders of the fellowship and their wives that I was not free like other single guys to date in that way. I gave them some of the information, but not all the rules that the Lord held me to concerning relationships. I did say that the first rule would be that the Lord would talk to me in a dream and show me the girls. Next, there would be a particular sign that would happen within a week or two to confirm them. We prayed. Nothing happened. About a month or two later, I was asked to pray about the girls again. Nothing happened. About a month or so after that, I was asked to reconsider whether God really was asking me to seek a mate in the way I thought. We prayed again. By that time, I had visited the other Bible study a couple of times. Nevertheless, after Ken and I had prayed the third time, that night the Lord talked to me in a dream and showed me Numbers 9 and 10. When Ken called the next day to ask me if the Lord had talked with me in a dream, I told him yes, but they were not the girls in your fellowship. I also told him the next step would be that I would have to wait for confirmation. Also, I suggested that since he had been praying about the issue with me, that the Lord would probably tap him to be my prayer and accountability partner. He prayed about it and agreed. We prayed about the photo confirmation first. The next week, the mother of both girls sent me a friend request. Meanwhile, a lady friend of the family also sent a friend request. I accepted both. Within 24 hours after that, I not only received the one photo that I usually receive as a confirmation, but probably a dozen pictures or more of each girl. While number 9 seemed to interact with me often, number 10 appeared to scowl at me or act anxious when I was around. When I informed Ken and Brent, they asked if they could set up a prayer meeting with me about the issue. Ken hears words while Brent tends to get visions. What happened is that something arose where Ken couldn't come until later and would not be going into work until later. At that time, Ken and Brent worked at the same factory. Brent had been called into work early. Brent called and said that when he, Ken, and both their wives had last prayed with me about the issue, that he had had a vision. When he found out the Lord had talked to me in a dream, but not for the girls they were praying about, he had decided to talk with his wife before telling me the vision. When Brent called about the second prayer meeting, he asked me to put out several pictures so he could see if any matched the lady in his vision. I found 24 pictures, all different girls, most of them from Facebook. Most of them were on my friend list, but some were copies of real photos taken from my file of former Friendship Tower girls. I hadn't described 9 and 10 to Ken and his family. After I flipped the photos up, Brent immediately pointed at Friendship Tower girl number 9. He said, "That's the one from my vision. I think she works at Walmart, but I don't know how long she will be there." I said, "Yes, she is one of the two. If the Lord showed you one, he can show you the other." We prayed. Brent scanned the other pictures. He hesitated briefly, then pointed at Friendship Tower girl number 10, who is several years older than 9. Brent said, "I didn't get a vision, but I think that is the other one. I don't know where she works. I'm not saying she is lazy, but I have the feeling that she doesn't work at a regular job. I confirmed that she was, indeed, the other Friendship Tower girl. We chatted for a few minutes, and then Brent went to work. Ken came by a bit later. I told him about Brent having the vision about Friendship Tower girl number 9. I added that he had correctly picked out number 10 after that as well, but hadn't had a vision about her. Ken suggested that we pray for another confirmation. I agreed. I prayed that both Friendship Tower girls would send me a Facebook friend request before the day ended to confirm them again. Ken said that we shouldn't put God in a box. Ken prayed that the Lord would have the family invite me to spend more time with the girl or girls, but within the next few weeks, rather than limiting the parameters of the fleece to the end of the day. Ken added that the Lord could choose either or both fleeces according to his will to answer our prayers concerning a second confirmation for both ladies. What happened? Less than 2 hours later, Friendship Tower girl number 9, the girl that Brent had seen in his vision and then picked out of the lineup, sent me a Facebook friend request. You can see in the image below where I thanked her and explained why I hadn't asked her first. And then I have a picture and it says, "You are friends on Facebook." And the date was 8/08/2015, 3:47 p.m. And this is in the instant message. And I wrote back, "Thanks for the friend request. Because of certain rules that I am under, I had to wait for you to friend me." And then I said, please, in the book, by the way, in the audio, I don't have a picture of that instant message, but I do in the actual book. And it says, please excuse the typo because I wrote your instead of the word you. I have kept a copy of the instant message with picture and name where I thanked Friendship Tower girl number 9. I thought it would be best not to put her name and picture in this chapter. It all happened on a Saturday, less than 2 hours from when Ken and I had prayed. Friendship Tower girl number 9 had sent me a friend request, which was the direct answer to my fleece. I called Ken to let him know that I had received confirmation for number 9, but not number 10. I also added that my impression was that if Ken's prayer was answered for number 10, that I could ask her for a Facebook friendship request at that time, because it would be obvious that the Lord was opening the door for friendship with number 10. About a week later, the mother invited me to attend their traditional church with the family of both girls. I think it may have been a few weeks later that we went to the service, following that invitation, but Friendship Tower girl number 10 went, and number 9 did not. September 28th, 2015 was the first time that Friendship Tower girl number 10 communicated with me via Facebook. I saved a copy of that too. And it says, "You are friends on Facebook," and the date is 9/28/2015 at 8:21 p.m. And then I gave her a little message. After visiting, and it's about a computer, after visiting with her and her mom at their church, which probably happened earlier in September, I told her that usually I would have had to wait for her to offer the friend request. Further, I explained that since I had been invited into her life and she was going to be helping me with a project, I felt I could ask for the friend request. She granted it. Earlier, just before I bought the computer, which I had told her about in the message, the Lord had woken me in the middle of the night and given me a strong impression that I was to buy it, as she would need to use it to help with the project. I remember telling the Lord that I didn't have the money. The next day, I had a surprise knock on my door. A Christian brother handed me an envelope that contained a large sum of money. He had said the Lord hadn't told him what the money was for, but that I needed it to do something that Jesus had asked me to do. I utilized a credit card to buy the equipment but used the cash to pay it off. On Tuesday, the 29th, 2015, one day after the first Facebook message with Friendship Tower Girl number 10, I was surprised at the weekly home fellowship meeting. Both Friendship Tower Girl number 10 and her mom had felt impressed to bring communion materials. The lady bought the wine, and her mom bought the crackers. The mom would usually have one of the elders share scripture for part of each meeting. That night, the man who led the Bible teaching section read from 1 Corinthians chapter 11. By the leading of the Lord, with no human input, he chose Friendship Tower Girl number 10 to read the verse on the sharing of the wine and lead the sharing of the wine. He then asked me to read the verse about sharing the bread and then lead the sharing of the bread. In the natural scheme of things, especially concerning American tradition, that fact is interesting but seems to have no relevance to the issue. Few people realize that communion in the New Testament is based on the Jewish betrothal custom. We, myself and Friendship Tower Girl number 10, were looking directly at each other as it happened, and she hesitated, as if she would decline reading scripture as she occasionally does, but she read the scripture and led the sharing of the wine. In the ancient Jewish betrothal custom, if a woman did not drink the wine, she did not accept the betrothal and was excused. At the time, she did not know the spiritual significance of what had just happened. She was the first Friendship Tower Girl where the Lord had arranged it. There was going to be a bread and wine ceremony with the lady I had been betrothed to back in 2000. When that Friendship Tower Girl from 2000 had not been allowed by her parents to attend the meeting in the park, her dad had read instead a short letter stating in her own words that she wished to enter the betrothal with me, but the wine and bread part of the ceremony had been canceled. I'm Irish American. Why would Jesus make the betrothal ceremony a part of my marriage? If you remember my testimony when I was 4 or 5, the one section of the reoccurring serial dream had Jesus telling me that he would not allow me to ask a father for his daughter's hand or ask a lady to marry me. Jesus promised to arrange the marriage. While Jesus walked the earth, what culture's marriage ceremony was his custom? Jesus was Jewish. Likewise, another aspect of the ancient Middle Eastern marriages was that it was customary to marry off an older daughter first and permissible to give 2 sisters to one husband. This is one reason why the patriarch Jacob ended up marrying Leah and Rachel, which would be considered unscriptural and illegal in the modern American church. However, to complete how this affects me, a modern-day Irish American, I must also remind my readers of the incident that occurred during the vision in 1989 when Jesus talked to me about the Genesis 24 promise that he had made to me in my dorm room years earlier. Jesus had stated that the book of Ruth would be the key. He had added that I would understand the book of Ruth key when it was time. When number 10 accepted the wine toast during the Bible study, she may have had a premonition about the significance of what was happening, but did not truly understand the ramifications of the divine word picture. Later, when she did understand, she seemed to use the book of Ruth key to decline her first right of redemption into our betrothal. What this means is that I can't push the issue and must wait for the Lord to make the arrangements. In the future, Friendship Tower Girl number 9, who is still in the tower, although she may have left it temporarily, see Friendship Tower Girl to the Rescue Dream, will be given an opportunity to accept the betrothal in number 10's place. Back to the rest of the story concerning Friendship Tower Girl number 10. Meanwhile, following the completion of the project, I was invited to take a trip with number 10 and her family. I even received permission while on that trip to court her. Ellipsis points. I should backtrack a bit. Just before I was invited to attend that trip, a prophet visited Ken's fellowship. That prophet had a word for me. He said that I had been awaiting a certain promise from the Lord for many years. He saw me standing in front of a doorway which had bars like prison bars that had always stood between me and the promise. The prophet said, quote, "Very soon you are going to be able to step through that door. God will make the prison bars disappear, and you will be able to freely enter the room with the promise." End quote. That night, Mrs. Casey Richardson, one of the women from Ken's group, had a dream. Unlike my dreams that are often a mixture of literal and symbolic elements, her dreams are usually fairly straightforward. She said she saw the bars slide into the floor. Casey watched the dream Wayne enter the room. I saw my promise on the other side of the room. I walked about 3/4 of the way into the room and was stopped abruptly by an invisible force field. Casey said that the prophet's prophecy was true, but incomplete. She said that I would see the promise, and interestingly, both Princess number 9 and Princess number 10 were on the trip. When the door opened and I stepped inside, she said that I would not attain the promise, at least at that time. And that was the end of Casey's dream. Ellipsis points. Number 10 agreed that we could start dating, but following a music in the park family activity, while she did share lunch at the park with me, she spent most of the evening flirting with a couple of guys. Either the next day or the day after that, when I saw her again, she told me very emphatically, "You need to find a girlfriend." She also told me, with even more emphasis, not to look at her. First, for the rules I am under, if that happens, they are always my friend, and I must at all times treat them with dignity and respect. But I must accept that wish. Second, I have a choice between obeying the Lord or rebelling against him. Unless Jesus confirms a lady as a Friendship Tower girl, I can't have a relationship with her. On the other hand, while I am free to interact and speak my heart, I cannot attempt to manipulate or force Friendship Tower girls to be friends with me or increase the level of our friendship. I also must wait for the Lord to arrange the courtship or for the Friendship Tower girl to desire a courtship. As for Friendship Tower girl number 9, even though she is first princess now, the Lord has not yet opened the door for her to take over the courtship that number 10 declined. Usually, both Friendship Tower girls in a set use the Book of Ruth key to opt out of the courtship anyway. There is one comical part of the whole Friendship Tower issue that I forgot to mention. When the Lord talked to me during the vision in 1989, he reminded me of the parable of the magnificent statue vision and then showed me a nose. While the nose area of the Lord's body parts creation assembly workshop was in the original vision that my story of the parable of the magnificent statue is based on, I decided to remove that scene from the story in my book, Adventurer's Horn. Jesus also let me hear the voice of the lady who was supposed to be my future wife. Over the years, I thought both the voice and nose were symbolic. Then I met Friendship Tower girls 9 and 10. I vacillated in that both girls seemed to have the nose and voice. Depending on the situation, read that as the angle that I am viewing their face, or the time, I would think that each one was, or was not, the one. I talked to Ken about that several times. I still don't know 100% about the nose, but I do know that one evening, not long after number 10 had decided that she was no longer interested in communicating, even at the home fellowship where they attend, number 9 said, "Good night, Wayne," Not only do I not remember number 10 ever using my name, but when number 9 called me by name, there was a powerful, resonant zing that washed over me as I thanked her for wishing me good night. Which also reminds me that just before number 9 lost first princess status, I had been unsuccessfully trying to visit her at a few places where she had part-time employment. I never could seem to find her. One night, Ken had asked me to help him with a deliverance. When I am working a deliverance, I usually function like a wingman. I tend to be used to pray for protection, have help visions, or get names of hidden strongmen controlling spirits, or receive words of knowledge concerning resistant evil spirits, rather than focus on casting out activity. In any event, I tend to get very sensitive to the voice of the Spirit just before I help with a deliverance. The Holy Spirit's message was very clear, and I could actually hear it. Sometimes I just have the impression. I actually heard him say this. Unless you know it is more than wishful thinking, you are not to visit blank. And of course he used her name. At work, or go visit her at her home, except you are invited or have a very good reason. End of quote. So I stopped trying to visit her at work after that. I even talked to number 9 about it. She was shocked that the Lord would tell me such a thing. She even asked me, why would he say that? And if you would ask her now, I have no idea whether she remembers, but I remember having the conversation with her. I don't remember what I had answered exactly, but I think it was something to the effect that I wasn't to visit her without being invited or try to see her at work unless I knew for certain that Jesus was sending me to see her. What I thought Jesus was saying, but I didn't share with number 9, was, since number 10 was first princess, that I would be dishonoring her if I started chasing 9. The feeling I have now is that he was saying all these things to a certain extent. However, what he was really saying was that unless I knew for sure that she was indeed first princess, that I was not free to visit her at work. When the Lord recently had a friend invite me to dine where Friendship Tower girl number 9 was working, I was very happy to see her and talk with her. She was very cordial to me as well. When in town, on another occasion not long after that, I thought that I had sinned, and suggesting to that same friend that we go there again, especially since we had been told she was working, and she was not there when we went. I had felt as if I had broken the Lord's rules. Not long after that, I woke up in the middle of the night. I had a very clear impression that since she was first princess again, and if she did not mind, and I did not cause any issues, that I was free to occasionally visit her at work. However, she is now on leave from work, and may be out of the area for at least a few months. I am fairly certain that number 10 has used her Book of Ruth key right to give up her first right of redemption. While I cannot ask a woman to marry me, and must allow the Lord to arrange my marriage, Friendship Tower girls, unless they are forbidden by their parents, pretty much set the level of our relationship or courtship. With rare exceptions, that level seems to average 0 to 1 on a scale of 1 to 10. Those are the rules I am under. If one exits the tower, but changes her mind and wants back in, I must accept her back at the level she wants. That said, the Lord was very strict on touch rules. I gather from something said to me, one reason Friendship Tower girl number 10 declined the courtship is that she had wanted a more physical relationship. Also, there were times that I was anxious or reacting too cautiously, not because of the rules, but because of the learned behavior of years of rejection and basic unfamiliarity with dating. My ineptitude should take the brunt of the blame. One of the things I felt I was supposed to do that I never had the opportunity to do before with the other princesses was to ask Princess number 10 if there was anything I was doing that she wanted me to stop or change, or if there was something I wasn't doing that she wanted me to start. It was really hard, but I felt the Lord was telling me to start asking her that. And I know it was at least 3 or 4 times in a row when seeing her that I did ask, but I finally gave up asking. It seemed as if number 10 would not tell me what she wanted, expect me to read her mind, and then become upset with me because I didn't say or do what she desired. Plus, there are extenuating circumstances that I'm not going to explain where number 10 would react poorly to a given situation, and it wasn't really her fault. I am sure that all that factored into the equation, and like I said, I take the brunt of the blame just because of my awkwardness. I don't know the exact phrase she used, but number 10's mom told me that I had been, quote, too proper, unquote. Whatever it was that number 10 had said that I was, her mom wouldn't tell me. But her terms, her mom's terms, were, quote, too proper, unquote. There are 2 former Friendship Tower girls who are unmarried. I could be wrong, but I don't think the Lord is going to bring them back into the tower. And if I understand Truman's prophecy correctly, the last 2 Friendship Tower girls would be friends. None of the Friendship Tower girls, except numbers 9 and 10, knew each other. What has been the crux in this strange and complex issue is that all the confirmed Friendship Tower girls have been much younger than I am. Usually, they are in the 18 to 30 age range, and a lot of times it actually ends up being 18 to 24, but the range is actually like 18 to 30. I have typically been at least a decade or 2 older. While I have grown older, the Friendship Tower girls always end up being very youthful. There was one exception, but she was still much younger than I am. Not only am I middle-aged now, but obese, disabled, and relatively poor. If the tables were turned, I probably would be running too. I guess that is one reason Jesus said in the 1989 three-dimensional vision, unless he intervened personally, that I would never marry. Interestingly, the class of 1979 at Chautauqua High School gave class prophecies for each class of 1980 graduate. The one they gave to me was, Wayne will make the best father on earth, but no woman on earth will ever want him. So far, the diviners of class of 1979 have proven accurate. If they are to be proven wrong, only Jesus will be able to do it. Below are the links to the YouTube videos and WayneO'Connor.com blog posts for the individual Friendship Tower Chronicles presentations. Some of the names have been changed or omitted to protect identities. My name is Wayne O'Connor, and thank you for listening to Chapter 10 of Kingdom Lessons 3, Flowers from Jesus, and Chapter 10 is entitled The Friendship Tower Chronicles. Have a great day or a great night, whatever the case may be.